Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast, and this is my review of Wheel of Fortune and Fantasy, a Japanese romance anthology from 2021 that was directed by Ryusuke Hamaguchi. Now, Hamaguchi had a good year in 2021 because he also directed Drive My Car, which won a bunch of awards and was released in the same year. Wheel of Fortune and Fantasy is quite different, however. This is about an unexpected love triangle, a failed seduction trap, and an encounter that results from a misunderstanding. And this anthology is told in 3 stories that depict 3 female characters and trace their trajectories between their choices and regrets. It has a total runtime of about 2 hours, meaning that each short film lasts about 40 minutes each. So the first episode or story here is called Magic, or something less assuring. So during a taxi ride back from a photo shoot, model Meiko hears about her best friend Sugumi's new love interest. Now, one of the key opening moments for this first short story shows our female protagonist, a model, talking with her friend during this taxi ride. And the first thing that really stuck out to me about this movie is the dialogue, by far. The first story has heavy dialogue, but it's very good. I really like the conversations in this. Like in the cab ride, these ladies have a discussion about how first impressions of men can be deceiving, or how someone's personality can be very different from what you initially expect. There's a lengthy assessment of the male lead's possible player lifestyle, and then they talk about sexual tension through conversation on a first date, stuff like that. And all of this dialogue is presented in a very natural, energetic fashion, but it's also very precise and detailed. There's actual interesting content in this, and it's also rather psychological. It's the kind of conversations in movies that I find very interesting. Now, the first story does not waste any time. I found it to be briskly paced. Performances are very good, and as an added bonus, there's some nice nighttime shots of Japanese city environments. So, very strong opening story here. The second story, or episode, is called Door Wide Open. A professor's class is interrupted by a student loudly begging before the professor, asking not to be failed, as it would derail his future as a news anchor. The professor responds unsympathetically, and sometime later, the student attempts an act of vengeance against this professor by convincing his lover, who's married by the way, into seducing him for the purpose of creating a scandal. So the first thing I noticed about the second story was the actor, Kiyohiko Shibukawa, a very recognizable face for those who are big fans of director Toshiaki Toyoda, because he acted in a bunch of Toyoda's movies. So it's nice to see him here. And like the first segment, this is a dialogue-heavy story. We get some good conversations early on between the lovebirds. Give us an idea of their relationship and their personalities. This story is also more on the sultry side. The discussions are, I'd say, surprisingly frank and open in regard to sex, but they're analytical to a degree and even formal in how they're expressed. So when this lady goes into the professor's office in an attempt to seduce him, there's this stifling formality that's present in how they talk to one another. And some of this is obviously cultural, but it's interesting because it kind of tempers the act of seduction and makes it more interesting than the woman simply throwing herself at this guy, But I liked it. A good solid second story. And then the third story is called Once Again. In 2019, a virus resulted in computers inadvertently divulging their data, resulting in everyone reverting to using telegrams and the postal service. Natsuko attends her all-girls high school reunion, finding that she does not fit in nor remember her classmates' names. Later at the train station, she recognizes a classmate she was close with and is invited to her home. So the third story is kind of unique in how the plot progresses and how the relationship between the ladies develops. It actually mostly avoids directly addressing that computer virus premise, leaving that really bizarre element into the background mostly, but that backdrop does set up some of the key aspects of the relationship that we're exploring here. And yet again, the story is reliant on good dialogue, and it succeeds. Like this entire film, all three stories are so heavily reliant on script writing and performances. And those things come through strongly from start to finish. So it has a certain reliance on things, but thankfully those elements are the film's strongest aspects, so it works. I enjoyed the third segment as well, but I think my personal favorite of the short films is the first one. So overall, if you want like a strong romantic anthology that's good quality and a little bit different, I do strongly recommend Wheel of Fortune and Fantasy. It's currently available on streaming and Blu-ray. So if you're somebody who enjoyed Drive My Car, you're going to have to check this out. And even if you did not enjoy Drive My Car, I would say you might still enjoy this. Hamaguchi is definitely a director that we will need to follow in the coming years. And as always, we will see you next time.